What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be sharing 3 tips to make you a better investor. The advice I'm going to be covering in this video is stuff I wish I knew when I first started on my investing journey, as it's greatly changed the way that I look at investing and the way that I buy companies on the stock market. The tips that I'm going to be discussing are based off 2 of the greatest investors, Warren Buffett and Peter Lynch. Just to give you a bit of context on who these people are, Warren Buffett is an investor with a net worth of $71 billion, and he's the 7th richest man in the world. And Peter Lynch is a fund manager with an average annual return of 30%. These guys have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the stock market and investing, and can definitely provide a lot of beneficial information. Throughout this video, I'll be sharing some of the interviews they've given just to highlight the points that I'll be discussing. Everything I mentioned in this video will be linked in the description, including the original interviews. I'd highly recommend watching them. They're a bit lengthy, but definitely worthwhile. Make sure you stick around to the end, because I think all these tips are very useful regardless of how long you've been investing for, and it'll definitely save you some time digging through the YouTube archives looking for good investing advice. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the content.
The single most important thing to me in the stock market for anyone is to know what you own. I'm amazed how many people own stocks. They would not be able to tell you why they own it. They couldn't say in a minute or less why they own it. Actually, if you really press them down, they'd say the reason I own this is the sucker's going up. I mean, that's the only reason. That's the only reason they own it. If you don't understand it, it doesn't work. This is the single biggest principle. And it bothers me that people are very careful with their money. The public, when they buy a refrigerator, they get a Consumer Reports, they buy a microwave oven, they do that. They ask people what's the best kind of radar range, or what kind of car to buy. They do research. People will hear a tip on a bus on some stock, and they'll put half their life savings in it before sunset, and they wonder why they lose money in the stock market. And when they lose money...
The first piece of investing advice that I have is knowing what you own. In order to be a good investor, it is key to understand the business that you have put your money into. As you will hear from the interview, people will often spend a lot of time researching things when they're going to buy something. For example, if they're going on a holiday, or getting a new home appliance, or buying a new car, they'll spend a lot of time looking into the item that they're putting their money into. But when it comes to buying shares on the stock market, people will often spend little to no research in understanding the business that they're investing in. It's key to know things like, how does the company make money? What is the management's long-term goal for the company? And what are the risk factors for the company that can influence how much money you make or potentially also lose? I'll briefly outline the business structure of McDonald's as an example of how a company makes money. The way that McDonald's makes its income is by franchisees paying McDonald's the right to use the McDonald's name and build a restaurant. Now, the land that the restaurant is built on is owned by McDonald's, so the franchisee will have to pay rent along with royalties from the sales that the restaurant makes to McDonald's. Additionally, McDonald's will build more restaurants, which then McDonald's will buy more land or real estate, which franchisees will pay McDonald's the right to build the restaurant on, and then further expanding the business, the number of customers that it has, and the number of franchisees which it receives money from. If you don't understand what you own, it can put you at risk of making bad investments that will lose you money, because you might have invested in a company which isn't profitable, or it can cause you to panic when there's a drop in share price, because you can't differentiate between an inevitable fluctuation in share price that always happens when you're buying businesses on the stock market, or if this drop in share price is related to something going fundamentally wrong with the company's operations that will limit how much money the company can make, and is an indication that you should be selling your shares. Once you understand the operations of a business, you have to consider the risk factors that might negatively influence how much money the business can make. Because behind every stock, there is a company, and if the company is doing well, the stock price will also be doing well. Sticking with McDonald's as our example, some of the risk factors that can influence this business: people's perspective changing on fast food, potentially deviating away from the takeout options that McDonald's offers and wanting healthier food choices? Are the competitors taking away sales from McDonald's and reducing the amount of growth that the company can have? And also the quality of the franchisees which McDonald's allows to represent their name, and how well these franchisees operate the restaurants that they open. A great place to find more information on a company is by reading a 10K report. These can be found on the investor relations page for most major companies. These are large documents that provide a lot of detailed information on the financials for a business, management's overall goal and long-term outlook, and any risk factors that could negatively influence the business as well. Reading multiple 10K reports from different years can give you a good indication of how well the company has done in the past and give you some insight on how well the company can do in the future. These are quite lengthy documents, but you don't need to read the whole thing, just the key points will suffice. And as you read them, you'll gradually become better and better and more proficient at picking out the key information.